Hello and welcome to our December DIY barn box video. Hope you guys all have a Merry Christmas, because if I don't see you again before then, I wanted to give us one last Christmas craft to do together. So excuse my mess, I've been making ornaments nonstop, so I have stuff all over behind me, I know, but we have this cute little Mary garland for this time, and it can be tied on both ends. It'll tie up to wherever you want. Can you see it good, Mom?
There, okay, now we see.
All right,
Okay.
so you have this, and you have a couple little, I really wanted to include some ornaments too, so I think these kind of go with it. So you have a Merry and Bright, a little gingerbread, I'm losing him there, and then just a little simple peppermint swirl, but they kind of all go together. So if you wanted to use it together on a little buffet piece or something like that, you could. Did you get it fixed? Okay. So I did a lot of pre-painting because it is a little bit of painting that you guys will have to do. So I tried to get that. Apparently I got stuff on mine since then. So I did a lot of the pre-painting for you. What I did kind of was separated everything out. So beforehand, I just went and painted all of these green, all of these white, and then I went and painted, where's my letter? There's my letter. All of my letters red. So after you get that all done, I know what, I forgot to grab a sponges. Hold on one second. I usually have a whole bunch sitting on the table, but I did that cowl thing last night at Rocco's, and I must have taken them with me. So sorry about that. And so I painted these all with the sponge because I didn't want paint going down in the little holes of the scalloping and stuff like that. So I didn't want paint to get all down in here. So I sponge painted all of these. So that's how I started. I did those all red and green. I did the ornaments separate. So I did this set together, and after I got it painted, I took some white paint. And now this is gonna come in where your taste comes in. When I started out doing them, I put a little bit more white on them than I liked, so I kind of went back and repainted it and did it again. So you have your green scalloped pieces, so you'll have 5 of these. You're gonna get some white paint. You're gonna dab a lot of it off, because we're just kind of shading or highlighting with this. And then you're just gonna come around your piece. And I start out lightly, and then if I didn't like it, you can go back and get a little heavier. You can also hold your piece on there and kind of see where your lines are. And you don't have to do this part if you don't like it. To me, it just kind of adds that extra little piece. And I kind of rounded this one. I came up a little bit more and kind of rounded out that edge there. And always when I get new paint, I start out really slow because I'm always worried that I have too much paint on there, and it's easier to come back and add more than it is to take away. So here, we hadn't done a garland in a long time. But I was having a hard time deciding between that and ornaments, so that's why I gave you guys both. And then I also did the top of the flag because it sits down a little ways. You can tell exactly where it sits by lining up the holes. Like that. So then I came across the top and did some of the top too. And then now I have this little piece. Why is there going to be a fly in here now today? I was just telling Sean the other day that all the flies were like gone. No more little kids letting flies in the house. But apparently, because I had so I had done this ahead of time, let it sit, and something got on it. Looks like a little gob of paint maybe that I didn't see. You know, it'll bug me if I don't fix it. So I know some people are just, you know, little things don't bother them. I guess I'm a little OCD when it comes to that, a perfectionist. I don't like it to be like that. Once you put your dots on there, you won't be able to see it anyways. But so now you have these two pieces of your banner done. Now comes in where the polka dots come in. Now I used my stylus, which you guys all got a stylus a couple boxes ago. Sorry, my throat's been bad. I had to take a drink. So your guys' look a little different than this. I think they're white. I used the larger ball end. And now you want to keep your red paint fresh for when you do this. If it kind of has a seal over it, like you've had it sitting out without the lid on it, it will, it'll be stringy when you go to dot it on your board. So you'll want to kind of take that film off of it if you need to. Sorry, my tray is in the wrong spot for me to reach. So this is how I do my polka dots. You can do them however you want, and I'm actually going to show you a couple other things you can do instead of polka dots if this isn't your thing. I kind of sat at night watching TV and did all of them because I had a lot to do. So, can you see the paint tray too? Okay. So I'm going to get paint. I just have paint on the end though. I'm not like covering the whole bottom of my, and I started like right here. So for some people this can be kind of tedious, so that's why I said I'll give you guys a couple other ideas of what to do, but I really like polka dots with Christmas stuff. And you could space them out further apart. For me, it's easiest to go line by line. I feel like I get them more even that way, more evenly spaced. And I usually then when I go to my second one, lay it next to me so I notice if I start getting too many or not enough polka dots left on the thing. Okay. Then I'm going to drop down a little bit and I'm going to go to this in-between area right here. So it would make a triangle. Whenever I do polka dots, I do two and then that third one makes a triangle. That way everything's always evenly spaced. So there would be one there. And that helps keep where you don't end up with a big area with no polka dots and I dip back every time. You can try not doing that, but I find that my polka dots aren't uniform if I don't do it like that. And then the same thing comes here. Now I'm going to go back to that original line. And it'll be in the middle of these. So hopefully that makes sense. We're going to go over that again when we get to our ornaments. It's hard for me to see if I have it tipped up, if I'm lining them up or not. Okay. So if you notice, each pattern makes a triangle. So even if it was upside down, those two and this one make a triangle. And then you could start down here, the next line, it would be right in the middle of the same. Okay? I didn't want you guys to sit here while I polka dot the whole thing, so here it is finished for you. So that's what it should look like at the end. When you get down here to the bottom, you'll have some places where it's almost like there should be a polka dot. So you'll see how I have some kind of halfway off the edge there. I didn't want to leave it like a white voided space. So I just, where the polka dot would have been, I just barely touched it and just gave it kind of a half of a polka dot there. Grab something to wipe that off with. So then you have your flag polka dot in now. If you didn't want to do the polka dots, also another tip, I didn't mess up on these because I usually do. What I do is I keep a baby wipe handy. That's why you have baby wipes in your box. And If I dot and it's wrong, where did I put the one I was working on? You can wipe it right off. This one's set for a minute, but see, it comes right off. And then just fix your mistake. So if I put one somewhere and I was like, oh, that really wasn't where I wanted to put it, you can wipe it right off with a baby wipe. Now, if polka dotting, if you didn't like the polka dotting, I also included a toothbrush. I'm gonna move these out of the way because I don't want to get red on them. You could take your red and water it down a little bit. I always water mine down a little bit. That's probably a little bit too much though, when I'm going to do the speckling, because I feel like if I don't, I get big globs. And then I usually try it out on something before so that's not bad. I don't know, can you see that, Mom? And this is a quicker way. So instead of the polka dots, you would have your flags would look like that. That's another option. Or you can just leave them white. So there's a couple options for you. I like the polka dots the best, but I wanted to give you another suggestion in case you didn't want to sit and do polka dots. I'm gonna have red paint on my finger roll. Can you rinse that in that water, Mom? Because I'm gonna need it in a little bit for a different color. So you'll need your toothbrush for something else a little further down the line. Okay, so you now have your polka dots. You have your shaded green flag. You're gonna take all of your letters and your white paint, and you're just gonna shade the same way as we did with the green. You're gonna dab it off and then just go right along the bottom, and the same thing along the top. It kind of softens it a little bit and gives it that finishing detail. Red paint running. Okay, so it kind of softens it a little bit, gives it that finishing detail. Then something new this month is, instead of the glue that we've been using, I gave you guys the Titebond glue that I've been using at home that I really like. So I've been trying it out for a few months. I've been having a hard time getting that other glue consistently, and this seems to work well. So I just pre-filled these little lip gloss tubes, and this dries a little bit slower, and you don't need a whole lot. Yours doesn't need to be brown on the back. This was a scrap piece of wood that I used. I forgot that it was like that. So a little bit of glue. Line your piece up and press it down. And it actually gives you a little more time to move things around, but it does dry fairly quickly still. And it doesn't glue your fingers together. It washes off your hands with water like an Elmer's glue. Like an Elmer's glue would. So you tie that on there. And then the same thing. Now, it also dries clear, so if you get some out, it's not quite as shiny as the super glue is. So what I did is I just, where the free spaces were, that way I didn't have to worry about it coming out where my letters were. So I just kind of glued it up here at the top and then down here at the bottom a little bit, and then maybe some right here in the middle. So just about like that. And I just eyeballed it. I just centered them. The little point in the flag kind of helps you see where your center is. Okay. So they're real easy to put together. They're just, the polka dotting is a little bit time consuming. So then you have your Mary. That's why I didn't do Merry Christmas. I did a shorter banner because I really like decorating it with the Mary and Believe and things like that. Merry and Bright, that kind of stuff. So hopefully If you don't like the bolder colors, you could always water it down a little bit with some white paint, or use a different color, you know, to fit your decorating style. But usually pretty much the green, white, and red will go with something in your house. All right, so that finishes your Mary banner. I'll hold it up for you guys one more time. Actually, no, I need to show you how to tie it together. That's quick. Okay, so it's a little different than what we've done in the past. Instead of having one continuous string of jute, each flag is tied to the flag next to it. Okay, so you're gonna take your two flags. Your red and white string has all been pre-cut for you, or jute, or ribbon, sorry. The holes are fairly big, so you can usually fold it in half and stick it through. You want to come from the back. I really like this ribbon. And I usually don't use color in hardly anything except for this time of the year. There you go. And so you want to get kind of two even tails coming up here and a little bit space apart. Can you see? Mm-hmm. So I almost have them touching though, so not too much space in between the two pieces. Is it angled down too much? It seems like it's really right angled down. Okay.
It's showing what you're doing
okay.
Exactly.
So then tie one knot like that, and then you're going to tie it just like you tie your shoes. I actually, though, usually when I'm doing bows like this isn't how I tie my shoes, but I take two little bunny ears, and then I just tuck one under the other. It helps my bow stay a little bit more symmetric, and then just kind of adjust it where you want your tails and stuff to be before you get it too tight. And you don't want too big of a bow because you don't want it overpowering your piece you have there, but something like that. And then I take my two ends, scissors, and I did not dovetail mine. I just kind of cut them at an angle, and I cut them close up to the, oops, now that I just untied my bow, I cut them close up to the bow because I didn't want tail sticking down into my piece, like covering up the letters. So let's see if I can do this now that I cut part of it off. So I just cut them at an angle. And then you can fuss with it and adjust your tails or whatever, however you'd like, but it kind of hangs similar to that, okay? So you're gonna do that all the way down, and then when you get to the end, I just drew it through, and then I just tied it to where I wanted it to go, okay? So there's your Mary banner. Okay, now let's put that one out of the way, and we're gonna get our ornaments out. So we have our 3 ornaments. These I did a little bit of shading on, and you could even do more, but I didn't want to make it too complicated. I also pre-painted these pieces. And I showed you how to do the polka dots. I do them the same way on here, but I did use the end of one of my brushes to make a little bit bigger polka dot. So you could also do that on the Mary flags if you wanted. So you just can see how the difference is in the size of the polka dot. I use the end of a paintbrush on here, and I use the stylus on here. So That's the only difference. And I still do the same row effect. So you'll see I have a row here, then I drop down in a row, I drop down, and so my rows just get wider, but I'm still making that same triangle. So you can still connect 3 pieces. Okay? That's the best way to fill up all of your spaces. So one of your circles is going to be painted pink with a paint sponge, and then you're going to do the dots in red. Your other circle is going to be painted white. And your third circle will be red. Okay? Let's set those aside a little bit. Your word Mary is just painted white with a sponge the same way so that you don't have paint going down the sides. That one's pretty simple. Now to the swirl, it's painted red with a sponge, but how I did my shading was with a sponge as well. I went around all the sides and just kind of came right in here. I just went in as far as I could, and then the same way like this. I just turned my sponge and I just shaded all the way around the outside. Okay. Then I took the stylus and some white paint, and I made 3 little dots. These are just kind of some of the finishing touches that I like to do on pieces. They just give it an extra little, I think I learned this from toll painting. It's a common, the little dots or squiggles. I'm not very good at the squiggles, so I usually use dots. And on this, I don't re-dip my thing every time. I usually dip one and then they get smaller as they go down because there's less paint on my brush or on my stylus. Okay. You could go all the way around like that. There's a lot you could, different detail things you could do to make it your own. But that's how I did it. That off. Okay. Now, this piece is done. So we're going to set our white circle and our red little spinning wheel off to the side. We're going to take our Mary and we have our red circle, and I'm going to show you the polka dots on this one. I did do a little bit of white shading around the edge before I did the polka dots. I didn't do it on this because I wanted to be able to show you. Get a little bit more paint. So same thing, I'm getting paint and I'm dabbing the majority of my paint off of my sponge. And then I'm just going around the edge. And I like to do this before I do my polka dots because if I don't, I end up, never fails, I don't wait till it's dry enough and I end up sticking my finger in a not completely dry polka dot and squishing it. And if this didn't fit your tree style, it's an activity you could even do with your kids or grandkids. And I came all the way across the top of mine and even made my little handle white right here. Okay, you see how that looks. Okay. And you can always, like, if you don't feel like it's blended enough while it's wet, you can kind of run your thumb along the edge of it. Sometimes kind of blends that white paint into the red. Okay, but it doesn't need to be perfect. That's the whole point of it. It's just kind of giving a highlight to your shape. I'll wipe my fingers off just because I don't want to get white on anything else. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how I did my polka dots on this piece. Exactly the same as how I did it on the red one. I took the end of my brush and I decided where my starting point would be. So I got some white paint. You want to do straight up and down. I usually start one on each side. Okay, So that's where I started. If I put it here, can you go down to where you can see and I can hold it this direction? That way I can still see. So see how my polka dots are just a little heavier? Now that makes my triangle. I do one over here. That makes my triangle just the same. And these ones I spaced out a little bit further. Come down here. Kind of some of your spacing depends on, one, how you like it and how long you want to be polka dotting. If you put them really close together, you'll be polka dotting for a while. And I do the same thing with this. So this kind of comes to the edge right here. I'll probably take and put a polka dot like that. It makes it look like the natural pattern would look if it were just running across. Okay. And nobody's going to look and see where every little polka dot you put down was and if it's perfect or not. This is just an easy tool to use to fill your piece without feeling like, oh no, I have a whole bunch in one area and not enough in the other. And if they're looking to see if you have all your polka dots on there, then maybe they need to go find something else to do. But even sometimes like this, like I feel like up here, it's a little plain, like it needs to run off. So I'll come up and add like a random little like half polka dot coming off the edge. It's just a general rule to follow for people who have never done it before, don't know, kind of where to start, how many do I put or don't put. The triangle method just works out well for that. And you can start in the center and work your way out. I always start from the top and work my way down. But see how now down here my line isn't quite as straight as it was up there at the top. I'm just gonna add 2. So there. See? So it's not too bad. It's definitely not rocket science. So I know it's something you guys can all do. It's just the amount of time you want to spend doing it. That's the only thing with the little polka dots, but I just love I don't know what it is about it, but I just really like it. Okay, so now that one is all done. You would just glue your Mary right down there on the middle. I didn't do anything to the Mary, but I'm not going to do that yet because it's still wet. In fact, we'll put it off to the side. Now we come to our last one, our little gingerbread man, and I can't find what I do with my little gingerbread guy. I must have covered him up. Okay, I just had my little gingerbread guy. Do you see him? I'm sure I hid him for myself or I moved him.
No. There's the heart.
Sorry, you guys. It wouldn't be one of my videos if it didn't have a mistake, right? I don't even know how I could possibly lose him. Let me see if he's in my lap. Oh, he's right here in front of me. Oh, see? I told you. You can't really see him because I have this tablecloth on here. Probably that might be distracting you guys. I'm sorry. I did not think about that when I put this tablecloth down. I changed out my fall one this morning just for the video too. So to start your little gingerbread guy, you already have your pink circle and it's polka dotted. Now that I also went around the edge of this one and did the white paint, like I showed you on the red piece. I didn't want you guys to have to sit here and wait while I did all those polka dots though, so I did some ahead of time. So I advised to do this white And it doesn't stand out quite as much on the pink, but I advise you to do this white shading before you do your polka dots. Just so that, unless you're gonna let it sit for a little bit and dry. Especially when you're using the end of the paintbrush, more paint gets on there, so they take a little bit longer to dry, okay? Pieces like that. Then you're gonna take your gingerbread boy and paint him with the nutmeg brown that's in there, just the same sponge method that we always do. You have 2 little hearts. You're gonna paint them with the sponge with the red. Again, I always leave them on here so you guys can hold on to the piece of masking tape and sponge like this without having to hold on to the little tiny pieces. All right, and so you could make those white too. I made mine red. Now, the way I did my little smiley faces in the corner, my little hearts, was I took my embossing tool. I don't know if I can do this upside down, you guys. And I dipped it in the red paint. And I dotted and kind of pulled down a little bit. You could also use a paintbrush. Okay. And then you could fix it if, like, I see like one side's higher than the other because I'm holding it up. But that was how I did my, and I pulled down. Just dot it over here and just kind of pulled down. But a lot of people have a hard time making the smiles, so I just went ahead and scored it on there for you. So that makes it pretty simple. It's really easy to do. And then your eyes are already engraved on there for you as well. I did not do the white. So you have your little cookies lines scored right here. I gifted you for Christmas from me a pack of pink paintbrushes. And so in there, if you don't have one, you'll have a finer round point pen. I hope you guys like those. You can use them this year. So I'm just going to take my white and I'm going to go just inside those lines. And I just made short little kind of strokes like this to fill it in. And they're wide enough that it's not really hard. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just kind of a guide to keep you. And you could always take some brown paint and come back and touch up if you got a spot that you painted on and you didn't like. Okay. Do the other leg. I hope you guys are all decorated for Christmas. I usually put my tree up the day after Thanksgiving, but I've just had so many ornament orders and going back and forth between Gerber and here, and I just haven't gotten it put up yet. Okay. Last one, you do your little hand, and I did him the same way. Our barn box is open this month from the 1st through the 10th. I'm going to post a post on Facebook later today. And then we'll open one more time in January. And then I don't think we'll open again until after the summer. So right over here I got a little bit more paint than I wanted. So I'll show you how I'm going to fix that. I'm going to rinse my brush. And I would wait till it dried if I was at home doing it. Take some brown paint and just kind of touch up right there where I got a little fatter than I wanted to. Okay? And I always feather it out kind of like that so you don't see an exact like paint line, so you don't see exactly where I messed up and fix it. It doesn't draw attention to it. There's your little gingerbread guy. Okay? Now we're going to glue his two little buttons on. This, let's see, I haven't used these lipstick tubes to glue something this small yet. So I think I would put a little bit of glue on like your, either on your tray. Sorry, these are from last night. So they're not full. Okay, I was sticking to the masking tape. So I would just take either tweezers or with your fingers, but just get a little bit of glue on the back and stick it on. And then take your other one and do the same thing. Okay, are those straight? So I got a little crazy with the glue there now because I wasn't straight. So I'm gonna straighten him out if I can keep him straight. So this is the nice thing about this glue is it gives you a minute to move around. If I was using the stick fast, I wouldn't have been able to move him probably once I stuck him down there. And I don't use your paintbrush for this because it ruins the ends of your paintbrush. I just take, if there's a clump of glue, and get it off with the smooth end of my stylus and then wipe it off. Okay, so there's your little. You can also use a sponge. You just don't ever want to use the ends of your paintbrush. I've made that mistake before, being really busy doing a door hanger and just grabbing a paintbrush to fix it and just ruining my paintbrush. So, all right. You also have a candy cane. Now, how I did my candy cane was I painted the entire thing white with a sponge. Then I came back with the red paint and just painted inside those scored lines. The first coat of paint, you're going to be able to see your paint strokes. Let it dry and come back and do a second coat and you won't be able to see them any longer. Okay? Now, so then you paint your whole candy cane like that and set it aside. When I do gingerbread, I usually always do a little bit of speckling on him to kind of make him look like spices, look a little bit more real. So I'm going to take my paintbrush again. Actually, let me show you guys another way you can do this, because you guys all have these little short brushes I got you. Yours are a little shorter than mine, but they're those little short brown brushes that we use to make the cheeks on the scarecrow. Okay, let me get some fresh white paint because that has red in it over there. Okay. So this is another thing. You can use your little stipple brushes. You could use a chip brush for this too. And you're just going to do the same thing. You're just going to run your fingers over the end of it. You see? Everybody likes a different way of doing it, so I try to show you guys a few different ways. And then sometimes I'll go back and I'll take the brown. I'll rinse my brush out real quick. Since this isn't like the dry brushing, it doesn't matter if it's wet, but I just make sure I dry it really good on a towel or something. Now that I have white paint all over my thumb. I'll try it out on here first. There you go. And then I'll come back over him with the brown speckly paint. It kind of gets everywhere. Okay. No, you don't have to do that. I just usually do that on my gingerbread pieces, so that's why I included a little a toothbrush in your thing today. Now there's a big splotch right there that I don't really like, so I'm gonna take my paintbrush and I'm just gonna go in and I'm gonna pick up a little bit of that paint. And then I'm gonna take some nutmeg paint and kind of paint over it, and then that'll dry. Okay? Sorry, sometimes it's hard to do it when it's facing the camera. And you could also go over your smile with a red line if you wanted to. I just left mine scored like that. Now you're gonna take your pink square, a little bit of glue on your gingerbread man. I glued him down first and then I glued mine. Grab a separate glue. And I just centered him. And then I took the candy cane. So think about where you want your candy cane when you're positioning your little red hearts in the middle. I just made mine kind of go at an angle, but up the side right here. Okay. We're gonna set that one aside. Let's let the glue dry a little bit before we put the ribbon on it. So we have that. We have our, let's take our red polka dots and put our Merry and Bright on there. I'm just gonna put glue in a couple places, and then I'm gonna take my finger and kind of just spread it out a little bit. Since this glue doesn't stick to your finger like the super glue does, this is really easy to do. And then just take a baby wipe and wipe it off at the end. Okay. Try to center this upside down. All right, so now your Merry and Bright's on. I set that aside. And take our white circle right here and our pinwheel. And this will fit any direction. I don't even know if that's the same way I did the other one, but it doesn't really matter. I just left an opening kind of at the top. So now you have your 3 ornaments. You're gonna take your black and white ribbon that I gave you in your bag. Hush, you guys. Sorry, I left the puppies out and they don't like it because they can't go out in the rain. So you're gonna take this, you're gonna fold it in half. Then you're gonna fold it in half again this direction. Grab my scissors. And you're gonna cut that to kind of make a little dovetail. Look how that one turned out. We're gonna use these for a really simple ribbon that I don't think we've done on here before. So you're just dovetailing your ends. Then you're gonna take your jute. You're gonna fold it in half. You're gonna come in from the back. I'm gonna stick my fingers through here and I'm gonna grab that through, but I'm gonna leave it loose like that for a minute. I'm gonna grab my bead. And now I left my beads natural. You could absolutely paint these if you wanted. I did not. I'm gonna feed it through my bead. But I'm leaving it loose like that. Now I'm gonna take this ribbon and I'm gonna stick it through that hole. I'm gonna center it, and then I'm gonna tighten this. And you have a perfect little bow. It doesn't use a ton of ribbon. And it's very easy to make. I know a lot of people struggle with bows. And then I just tie this at the top with however much I want, and I just trim it to make it even. Okay. I'll show you guys again, that way you can see the bow and make sure you understand how I did it. Okay. Get our beads. I left them in here till the end so I didn't lose those too. Okay. So just dovetail your ends. For those of you who haven't done that before, guess I was just assuming people knew. So if you just fold it together and then cut towards that top outside corner, then when you open it up, you have like a little flagged end there, or it's called a dovetail. Okay, we'll just go ahead and do them both. And they should be cut to the right size. If you think they're too long, you can cut a little bit off of them, but they should be the right size for your ornaments already. All right, let's take another one. This should be dry. Come to the back of it. Now I'm opening this little part right here and I'm taking the tail through, but I'm not pulling it tight. If you have trouble getting your beads on, you can put a piece of tape or something on the end, but these beads are pretty easy to get on. They have a pretty large hole in the center, so I don't think that you will need to. Okay. Now you're going to take that dovetailed ribbon, you're sliding it under that loop about halfway across, and then you're just tightening it. And you can adjust it before you get it real tight. Make sure you still have it in the middle. And then just pull down on and it'll just keep your little bow there. Okay. One more. Actually, no, I must have, oh yeah, I do have one more without a bow on it. Okay. Okay, so you're feeding it through. You're pulling your tail through a little bit, but you're leaving it loose. You're grabbing your bead. Hold on, Duke. And sticking it on here. Oops.
You know what? You can go outside.
Okay, that one's not gonna want to go. I'm not gonna fight with it while you guys are on here. I'm gonna stick this through here. I'm gonna get it centered. And I'm just gonna pull it down. You can do it without a bead, but the bead just seems to hold the bow down better. So that's why I use the beads on them. So here are your final ornaments. I'll show you the ones that are all nice and dry. Okay, so you have your gingerbread, your peppermint swirl, and your Merry and Bright, and then your Merry banner. Okay. I hope you guys, can you see it, Mom?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. I hope you guys all enjoyed this year of the Barn Box. If you have any friends that would like to join, send me a message and I can send you a link. We'll be open until the 10th of December. And also, if anybody's wanting to order custom ornaments, I'm cutting off my ornament orders December 5th this year. Cody's coming home from leave from the Navy on the 15th, and I want to be able to spend time with him. So I'm trying to make sure I have all my ornament orders out. So if you haven't ordered an ornament and you would like one, make sure you message me before December 5th. All right, have a Merry Christmas.